Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Lee, and I'm here with Shira, Kim, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, we're going to talk about a spicy topic that we haven't covered before. It's sex. How we viewed it then and how we view it now, basically how it's evolved in our lives. Ladies, who is going to take the challenge of going first?
I'll go first.
Kim. Yay.
Well, it's actually very sad saying this, but when I was younger and, just starting to have sex in my mid-teens or so, I definitely viewed sex as love. And I think a lot of young girls probably view it as that because it's a way of getting attention and, just you think it's one thing, but really it's not. And so back then I really just viewed this as love. And I was definitely in a lot of unhealthy relationships growing up. And, now at 45 years old, being married, being in a healthy relationship, I do see what real love is. But back then, I had no idea. I didn't know who I was, how I wanted to be treated, how I should be treated, how I should treat someone else. So it really took, years and years of consistent dating and having sex with, different people to just start to learn what I like, what love really is and what it means to me, and what, that sex is really just a bonus. Sex is important. I believe it's really important. But I'll never forget, and I have to say my husband's taught me a lot about love versus sex. Very important in a relationship, but I'll never forget or maybe like the first week we were talking, he said something along the lines of like, sex is great, but he really just is looking for someone he can talk to and have a strong connection with. And that was the first time ever, I was like 37, I think. And that was the first time ever where I've ever heard a man say something like that. Sex, at least with the guys I dated, sex was very important to the men I dated, like priority. And again, it's not that sex isn't important to my husband and I, but to hear him say, before he even really knew me, like, sex is great and all, but, and it really helped me look at it as just this fantastic, wonderful bonus that allows us to, be intimate and connect in this deeper way. But at the end of the day, the thing we do most is we talk and connect. And we're best friends, we're lovers, we're companions, we're so many things. And yeah, it's really all those, when I look back, I really viewed it as something it really was not. And it was to get attention, but not to get attention, to when I had attention from these guys that I was dating. And, like the second we had sex and that was involved, I would think it brought the relationship to a different level and that love was forming. But when I look back, it really wasn't. It was just all in my head. It was a story I was creating. It was definitely a story. It was like, oh, well, I had sex with him. So, he really likes me or he really wants to see this grow into something. And sometimes it wasn't the case. And I really appreciated the men who would say that to me. We'd have this great time. We would date for a while, for months, and we'd be intimate and it was fun and it was great. And I would think it was going somewhere. And some guys were so honest and beautiful and expressive and say, this has been wonderful. I just don't really want something serious right now, or I want to have fun with other people, or
they said it before the sex or after the sex?
After the sex.
I'm not sure they were that wonderful.
I just appreciated the honesty because there were, so many other guys, whether I had sex with them or not. I probably sound like such a slut, but I really wasn't.
I'm glad you said it.
But there was other guys who would just, blow me off or try to have sex and I wouldn't give it to them and then they would disappear, or like there was so many different types of experiences I had with men, so it just over the years taught me, okay, what do I want? When do I want to really be doing that? And then I just over the years would learn I want to be doing that when I would feel it was right and forming into something and I'd get to know them more. But it took me a long time to figure that shit out.
Hey, as long as you figure it out. I was going to make a really bad joke before, and Mike knows I love him. But when you said, oh, he said, I just want to talk and connect. I'm like, was that a line to get? To
Oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
I totally don't mean it. What?
No, I have to tell you something. So this morning I said to Mike, we're talking about sex today. I said, and what keeps coming to my mind was that first week we were dating and we were talking about relationships and what you were looking for, what we were both looking for. I said, I said, I'm trying to think of the exact words because what you said was so profound to me back then. I said, and you said something about, that sex was important, but at the end of the day, you're just looking for someone you could really talk to and connect with. And he goes, lies, all lies.
So it came full circle.
Well,
I said, I'm going to tell the girls you just did that.
oh my God. Well, I was going to say like, oh, that was probably his line. But the truth is he probably also learned a lot about what to do and what not to do as it relates to sex and relationships, right? We all learn and grow. But I got a lot of not even mixed messages, but almost like we were saying in another episode, like no messages. Like my mom sat me down at like, whatever it was, 9-10 years old and talked about the mechanics of it and all of that. This is how a baby is made, blah, blah, blah. And, but certainly, a healthy marriage was not necessarily modeled for me by my parents, but, I didn't have sex for the first time until I was 19. So, and I didn't even have my first kiss until I was 17. So I definitely was, I don't even call it a late bloomer because I hate that all like, oh, I had sex early, I had sex late. It's like, it's just your journey. It doesn't matter. But I met my ex when I was 22. And so I had not sort of sowed my wild oats and I didn't really experiment a lot. I didn't know a lot about all of it. And I found that, sex for me was very like a sidebar thing. Like it wasn't part and parcel of a good relationship. And I think over the years, I sort of like swept it under the rug of like, well, when you're married that long, you don't really have it that much. But it's not like we, had a lot in the beginning necessarily either. And sort of being out of that and being in the relationship I am now has brought so much to light for me about not just like the act of sex and how it relates to a healthy relationship and having that basis of like respect and connection and all of that, and then sort of sex on top of that, but just like my body. I just learned so much about my body. And I think I took it for granted and I didn't treat myself very well when it comes to that topic. It was just very secondary in my life, or not even secondary, just not there. And I realize how important it actually is and how great it is too.
If you don't mind, I want to sort of circle back to something that Kim said, which was, I must sound like such a slut right now. Because, I come from, my family's Hungarian, and like there was a survey done or something that said that people in Hungary have more sex than anywhere else in the world.
Really?
But I think that because of that, the way that sex is approached is much more open and much more like, like this is about pleasure. This is not, the conversation wasn't just this is how babies are made. It was like, this is like a part of your life that like enriches like relationships and all of that stuff. And so like, I sowed my wild oats and I like was totally unapologetic about it. I was like, this is just what you do. This is just how you connect with your body and find out what you like. And I feel like it was like an ongoing conversation at home. Like my mom knew when I lost my virginity. She was like very open to talking about that. And then the interesting thing about it is, even though I had this like very open concept of what sex was about and like that it was a big part of life, I didn't associate it with being a big part of marriage. So even though I had, you know, all of the experience leading up to getting married at 30, it was just kind of this secondary thing in marriage. And then it became like very low on the list of priorities in marriage. And I guess I just kind of shrugged it off as like, oh, well, that is just how it is. And I remember my now ex-husband's friend saying, actually, it's not marriage that ruins your sex life, it's having kids. And I was like, looking at him going, well, we don't have any kids, so what's our excuse? Meanwhile, this friend of his had 2 kids and he still always looked at his wife like she was a snack. So I was like kind of jealous of, you know, the way that their like energy together was always sort of like very touchy, hands-on, whatever. And so now I remember, you know, talking to Kim about this when I was still married to my first husband, and she was like, no, that's not what marriage is. Like, sex is a very important part of it. And the fact that you're not really being intimate with your husband says a lot about the relationship itself. And, you know, I tried to wake it back up. I really did.
Define it. Sorry.
Sex. I mean, our sex life and all of that was just, it was dead. I mean, honestly, it needed resuscitation. And I think that it did get to a point where it was too late, because when you feel sexually rejected for an extended period of time, you just like, you don't feel hot next, like, and I was a smoke show when I was married to him. I was like, what?
You still
You
are,
want
girl.
this? I know.
Exactly.
But I'm saying, like, there was, I just remember like feeling like, what? Like this doesn't excite you or make you like want to jump on me every once in a while? Like, that's, oh God, it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot of pain. It was a lot of disappointment. And you know, I feel like understanding that actually like marriage can be very hot and sexy and like not, it doesn't ruin your sex life. Like, that's something that I want to tell everyone now that I understand it. And also that like age has nothing to do with it, you know, like, hello, you guys are like my inspiration for real. Cause I definitely want women to look forward to, you know, their process instead of being like, yeah, well, after a certain age, it'll like, no, no.
That's what I thought too, you know, but contrary to that, it's been the best that it's ever been for me now. But, you know, contrary to how you were in your household, Juji, talking about sex and it was open and you told your mom when you had sex, that was never, ever discussed in my household. And it was just a lot more conservative. My parents were just not people who spoke about that. You know, they came from different countries. My grandmother was in an arranged marriage. She had 9 kids just for the sake of having kids, you know, and that was it. So I always felt that when I was younger and you know, when the hormones start, yeah, you're aroused, you know, you're feeling that feeling. So I remember sometimes having fun doing it, not in the beginning, but when I got married, I almost felt like it was my duty. I don't know that I knew how to really enjoy it. I definitely had some satisfaction, but I gotta say, overall, it was just part of, again, in my own mind, this was part of your duty. This is what you do. You can get satisfied and you need to satisfy and all that. And then, of course, you know, obviously I'm divorced as well for 9 years now. And towards the end of my marriage also, it was like there was no sex, but I really was not expecting things to get better after that in terms of sex, because also, and in the dating world, I realized that so many men today, well, some in their 40s and some in their 50s, already have sexual dysfunctions. And that kind of blew me away, but it's very, very common, unfortunately. But in those relationships where it was functioning well, it was a whole new, it has a whole new meaning to me today, you know, and the definition of sex, I mean, it could be whatever it is for us. For some people, it might be casual and that's sex. And for some, it might be intense and emotional. But the actual pleasure of it, that is something that has evolved for me a lot. It's just something that, you know, it's opened up a whole new world of really, really, really enjoying it without any crazy stuff going on, you know.
But Lee, that's also because as your fellow cinquentenarian, I don't even know what, we're in our 50s.
Oh, you're older than me. Let's get
That's right. That's right. But it's because we've changed. Like we value ourselves more.
Yes.
We're taking better care of ourselves. We know what
Yeah.
we want and what we deserve, and that changes everything.
Exactly. And you're right. And I was going to say it's because of how I've changed and how I value myself more and I love myself more that I feel more independent when it comes to sex. And I feel more just liberated and more like, hey, you know, what brings me joy? Like, hey, I'm celebrating that, you know, and that's just a wonderful thing. And it is true that, you know, Juji, it's been the best now than it's ever been. I mean, I'm almost 55 now. And it's just really good to just kind of to know that like it's not over, you know, because there was a time when she was in a coma for a few years.
She,
And coming back from the dead has been a whole new.
There's, by the way, 55, no speed limit for you, girl.
Girl, no.
You know, something I want to add too, something that I've noticed in my own sex life with my husband is what's so wonderful about having a partner that, you know, you're best friends with, you know, so well, is that it only gets better in marriage. Like, and there's no shoulds here. Like, oh, it should be like this. Like, you know, everybody has a different relationship with sex and with their partner, but what's so nice about it and fun and great is that because Mike and I know each other so well and we've become so close over the years, we could be silly together, we could be playful, we could be dirty, we could be all the things. There's no judgment, there's only fun, there's only excitement, I mean, I've never been with anyone else that I could be my true self. You know, I was telling you girls right before the call, there's times where my psoriasis, the psoriasis on my skin flares up and I feel totally insecure with spots. He doesn't care. He'll get on me any day of the week. He doesn't care about my spots, you know? And you know, that is an insecurity in me that comes up. And it's so nice to be with someone who just he sees right through it because he's seeing me from me. So to be with someone like that. So, you know, that's something that my whole life dating, I never knew I could have that. I never knew what that was. And now that I have it, I just feel really grateful for it because, you know, we're together almost going on 10 years, which is crazy. And our sex life is great. And I said to him last night, I said, I wonder what it's going to be like in 10 more years from now. You know, we both just kind of laughed and we were both like, we'll have to spice it up. We'll have to do some interesting things. And like, we were just joking about it, but it's fun to have someone who's, you just know you're not being judged. You know, you're being loved for who you really are. And like sex is just this playful, fun thing you get to do together, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
That's
Totally,
awesome.
but like that it is part of connecting on a level that you don't when your clothes are on.
What do you mean, Juji?
That's true. You can wear some clothes. Yes.
Details.
That'll be a whole other episode, maybe.
And by the way, I actually feel like this episode to me feels a little bit overdue because we talk about everything else about what it means to have like a fully expressed, fully enjoyable life, and that this is just a part of it. And one of the things that we talked about leading up to this episode is about how I would find it very important for everybody here to express that, because, you know, the way that sex is portrayed sort of in the media is that it's for like women in their 20s. You know what I mean? It's like that's when you get crazy. It's like, dude, that was amateur hour. You know, it was like awkward and strange, and like you didn't know what you were doing and they didn't know what they were doing. And like, I mean, I've actually always dated older men because I felt like, oh, that's the key, right? That's like the ticket, like the experience that they've had that I don't have yet, and you know, whatever else. But it seems to me like, you know, that's changing too a little bit when I see, you know, Helen Mirren displayed as like a sex object. Like that's like a really big step in the right direction. But I don't feel like we see enough of that out there in the world about how it's not just like, oh, you know, college and like crazy. No, like that was nothing.
Absolutely. And you know, they do say, or I heard many years ago, like that, you know, when I was in my 20s, I heard something about, you know, you can have some of the best sex when you're in your 40s, actually, or whenever, like a little bit older. And it probably comes along with the territory of just having more experience, maybe. But you know, I just feel at this point, like if you are enjoying it now, wherever you are in life, just enjoy the heck out of it, because you don't know when that's going to be on a decline. You know, many women who go through menopause or premenopause, you know, are experiencing some difficulties, you know, whether it's dryness and whatnot. And it's not as spontaneous maybe, or as fun or as quick. So, you know, we're all in such different parts of our life that, but we need to know and believe like it can and it does exist in so many different stages of our life.
Yeah. And I just want to say that, you know, I've always, you guys know the whole love languages thing. And I'm like, words and touch, like that's my thing, you know? And I, you know, even just putting sex aside for a second, just like affection, like holding the hand, stroking the hair, you know, giving a really good hug, like those are so meaningful. And of course are like the precursors potentially for having full out sex. But affection and touch is, I mean, there's so many studies about how important it is for our health and our self-esteem and connection and all of that. So I just want to say that I am beyond grateful that I am now experiencing in my life a relationship that is so beautiful on so many levels, including the sensual, sexual, affectionate, just this whole area of my life that's been like in the vault, as we've said. I'm just really, really grateful.
I also want to thank you guys, because if, you know, just having girlfriends who you can talk to about sex is so huge. I mean, I didn't, like you, Lee, it wasn't talked about in my house. There was no talk about birds and bees. There was definitely no talk about the pleasure side of it, you know, so it just wasn't talked about. So it's like, you know, maybe if I learned more about it, I would have been more open and could learn more from other people. But it took me well into my 20s and 30s to really just talk openly about it with friends and stuff like that. And now it's fun to talk about with you guys. So.
Oh, yeah.
If you
And
have
that's,
a-
by the way, audience, that we talk about all the time. It's just
Yeah.
first time that we are actually recording it on an episode. So we hope you enjoy. I mean, some of it has to be censored, of course, and we apologize for that. But anyway, I think this is a good place to wrap. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if there are any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching and stay safe.
Bye.